With Father's Day on the horizon and most likely past by the time this video is out, I couldn't help but think about cartoon dads as a whole. The good, the bad, the absent, and how animated series decide to tackle the dynamic of child and father. With new episodes of Bob's Burgers coming out weekly now, I couldn't be more excited. As I was going back watching the episodes of season 14 and 15, I just knew that I wanted to talk about the father-son dynamic that is Bob and Big Bob, and to psychoanalyze the relationship between the two. What's good, guys? It's Alissa. If you're new here, hello. First things first, y'all know I gotta get the formalities out of the way. You can follow me on TikTok, Instagram, Blue Sky. All that information is in my description box down below. I do have 3 YouTube channels. The one that you're watching right now. I also have a lifestyle channel where now I have officially started my analytical podcast. So if you haven't already checked that out, be sure to go over to my second channel to watch the first episode of the podcast. New episodes will be out every Monday. I talked about my experience at DreamCon 2025. I talked about the new Sims pack, and I go into detail about the first 2 weeks of Love Island, and I will be doing a weekly recap of Love Island USA. So if you're into that, we having fun over there. I also have a Sims channel where I have multiple challenges going on right now. So if you're into the Sims and you're into Alissa, go over there and check that out. And of course, I always want to thank my patrons over on Patreon for the continued support throughout this journey. You guys get early access not only to this video, but other videos that I have down the line and previous videos that have been out. Of course, I always let you guys know what I have going on first. So I, of course, have to shout you guys out over there on Patreon. With that being said, let's get into it. One of the things that I have always appreciated about Bob's Burgers is the difference in upbringings between Linda and Bob. Linda comes from a 2-parent household with a very eccentric family, while Bob grew up also in a 2-parent household. However, with the passing of his mom sometime in his teens, you can tell that the effect of that stayed with him throughout his adulthood, especially in a time where he started his own family without his mom there to witness this life milestone. But throughout this new era in his life, Bob still has his dad, Big Bob.
Hey, father issues. We all got them. I've got mother issues too.
Big Bob is a stoic 75-year-old man who, despite loving his family very much, has had a hard time showing it. Before saying good job, Big Bob will tell you 5 things that you did wrong and then forget that there was even a compliment to give. He's hardworking and keeps his head down in order to just make it to the next day. Like Bob, Big Bob owns a diner called Big Bob's Diner. And no, that's not coincidental that Bob has also opened up a restaurant like his father. This is actually where Bob draws his inspiration from, working in his father's diner and discovering his love for burgers and food as a whole in the process along the way.
So tell me, why burgers?
Well, my dad got me
Do you
started.
see this as a stepping stone to a real restaurant?
It is a real restaurant.
We first meet Big Bob in the episode Father of the Bob, where we actually discover this fact. Bob worked at Big Bob's Diner through his adolescence until they eventually began to clash over creative differences and an unhealthy work environment. But their relationship wasn't always rocky. In my opinion, I believe that there was a point where Bob and Big Bob just had a very low maintenance relationship that turned sour as Bob got older and the expectations of him began to grow. Sometime in their life, Bob's mom, who's also Big Bob's wife, passed away, leaving Big Bob to fill in the gaps, or at least try to fill the void that was left with the absence of Bob's mother, while also grieving the loss of the love of his life in the process.
Bobby, you've been working here your whole life, and I'm sure you've been waiting for this day.
What are you doing?
In the episode Bob Fires the Kids, we learned that most of Bob's childhood was spent in Big Bob's Diner, working and cleaning with little to no opportunity to just be a kid. And it's not that Bob didn't want to have fun. His dad's no-nonsense, get back to work attitude didn't allow him to do so. In the time that he spent working with his dad as a kid, he would make his own toys out of whatever items he could find in the restaurant, and honestly, I found this to be very sad. And I mean, so did his family.
This is my friend, Brilly.
A scouring pad?
A scouring pal. And my World War II fighter plane? And my dog, Mr. Doglovich.
What is this feeling I'm feeling right now? It's like I'm sad for another person? Is that a thing? Am I going crazy?
It's just objectively a sad thing to witness. But this also shows that Bob has also had a very expansive imagination. Even in a space where he was stunted creatively due to his dad's iron fist, he still found ways to have fun and be innovative. The definition of pressure makes diamonds, if the pressure is his tyrannical father and the diamonds that are created is a failing restaurant.
Anyway, quiet in here. Like this a lot, Bob?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's 12:30, sort of the lunch lull.
The lunch lull.
That's what we call it.
And like his father, Bob would love if any of his children were to take over the restaurant once he retires, or, you know, the worst. But none of his kids have explicitly expressed an interest in burgers outside of it just being fun and thrilling to be a kid behind a stove or having free reign in a pantry to make any burger they want for a competition, which is something Big Bob would never allow in his restaurant, but we'll get to that. For the most part, the kids are just 6 extra hands to help Bob around the restaurant for a low wage. Now, this is definitely problematic in a sense, that, and even Bob realizes this fact, coming to terms that he had a bad childhood due to his dad making him work in the restaurant, consuming all of his time as a child, with the addition of not paying them properly.
Lynn, I just realized something. I had a bad childhood.
Yeah, I know.
What do you mean you know?
Look at you.
What do you mean look at me?
Look at how you stand. People who had good childhoods don't stand like that.
When he would play with his toys, his dad would tell him to get back to work immediately.
Fetch, Mr. Doglovich!
Get back to work, Bob.
Brr, brr, die!
Get back to work, Bob.
And in the present day, when Bob sees his kids messing around in the restaurant, he immediately tells them to stop playing and get back to work, coming to a jarring realization that he sounds exactly like his father, and immediately fires the children from the restaurant in order to give them a better childhood than he had. For me, I definitely see the similarities in Bob and his dad's relationship, and I definitely think that there is something to be said about separating business from family. I used to have a dynamic with one of my parents where I worked with them in their business, was not being paid at all, but was basically having my creative talents consumed, and I wasn't able to have any freedom. I wasn't able to go to certain events at school because all of my time was consumed keeping my parents' business afloat. So I definitely understand where Bob is coming from, and you cannot get that time back. But I feel like what Bob fails to realize is that yes, although there are similarities in him and his dad and how they operate with their children, Bob is already a better parent to his children than he thinks. Bob talks about how his dad would never laugh and he had a drinking problem, and Bob has neither one of those things. Bob and Linda find time to make it to anything that their kids have going on and openly support their kids' dreams and talents, including Tina's writing. Sometimes.
Tina's gonna read her erotic friend fiction out loud at school. That's a great idea. She's gonna read erotic friend fiction out loud at school.
Oh my God! What have I done?
I'll drive.
Firing the kids from the restaurant would not have changed the fact that he's already more involved in his children's lives than his dad was. We find out later that Big Bob has a hard time expressing his love for Bob outwardly, but has always supported his dreams behind closed doors. We first meet Big Bob officially in the episode Father of the Bob, when the family decides to visit Big Bob's diner after 7 years of not going to his Christmas parties. It's in this episode that we finally discover what actually happened between this father and son duo. We learn that Bob has this 15-minute rule with his dad due to the fact that any second spent longer with him results in immediate criticism from Big Bob, like he's playing a don't spit the water out challenge with himself, but instead of water, it's harsh criticisms aimed at his son that he can only hold in for 15 minutes max.
Well, good luck. I give it 3 months.
I'm gonna go inside.
You're a lot fatter than I was at your age.
Gotta go.
Aw, cute kid. So you named him Gene, huh? Is it too late to change that?
I'm gonna leave now.
But this is your house.
Things quickly take a turn at the Christmas party though, when Big Bob is short-staffed and Linda suggests that Bob take over for the absence of this employee, trapping the two Bobs in the kitchen together for the rest of the night. I do go over my thoughts of this entire episode in a video that I did, ranking all of the Bob's Burgers Christmas episodes, so excuse me if this part is a bit repetitive if you've already seen this video. If you haven't, hint, all new territory. Their time spent in the kitchen goes well over the 15-minute rule. So we witness the crash and burn of this encounter because they have some unresolved issues that date back to Bob's adolescence.
Grilled cheese. It's weird.
What?
Nah, nothing. Never mind. It says grilled cheese on the ticket, but maybe you thought it said burnt toast. I don't know.
Oh my God.
We get a peek into the past when Baby Bob was working at Big Bob's diner. When Big Bob left him in charge while he was out getting a prostate exam, one of Big Bob's usual customers named Henry asked Baby Bob to make him his usual, a tuna melt. However, Bob saw this as an opportunity to make something new and test drive his Baby Can You Chive My Car burger.
Sour cream, chives, and little fried pickle wheels on the sides that make it look like a car. Vroom, vroom.
You know he's a grown man, right?
Outside of this showing the rocky dynamic between Bob and Big Bob, this also shows that Bob has had a passion for being creative and expressing his creativity through burgers at a very young age. Like I said in the beginning, Big Bob is very old-fashioned. He's very no, stick to the stuff you know, stick to the status quo. So when he saw Bob making Henry, his regular customer, something other than the usual, Big Bob completely loses it.
Junior, what is this?
It's a Baby You Can Chive My Car burger?
What? You can what? My what burger? Henry, did you order this? What'd you order?
The usual, but this looks okay. I like cars.
In my opinion, I believe that it's a bit more than just Big Bob wanting to stick to the old ways. I believe that he also wants to be the best in his own restaurant. And I think that he sees huge potential in Bob and he knows that he can surpass him at some point. It's all fine and dandy that you're shooting for the moon and being creative and doing your thing, but not in my establishment. Envy isn't a word that you can just throw around without some concrete evidence, but I do think that it's an emotion that a lot of people feel but don't like to admit that they feel. And I believe that that's what Big Bob was feeling in this moment, that if his customer was to try this burger, he might say that the burger is better than his or Bob cooks better than him. That's not happening in my restaurant.
Try it, Henry. You might like it.
Don't tell him what to eat, Junior. He didn't order that. He's a tuna melt man. Look at him.
I'll take a bite. I'll eat the wheel.
Hey, it's my burger car. Get off.
It's nobody's burger car.
Because why would he be upset about his son making his burgers in his own way? It also shows that he's a bit of a control freak and just wants things to go his way. Because instead of just saying his honest opinion on Bob's chive burger, he just throws it in the trash. And this moment of Big Bob throwing that burger in the trash left a lasting effect on Bob for the rest of his life. Now we fast forward into the further future where Bob is a little older and Big Bob has decided to put Bob under his wing and transform Big Bob's diner into Bob and Sons. However, Bob is still scorned over the chive burger incident and expresses that this is not what he wants for his future.
You want to be partners or what?
No.
You're welcome. Wait, what'd you just say?
I said no. I could never be partners with you. You're impossible to work with.
What?
Easy, little Bob.
I want to change the menu, and you never want to change the menu, and you're so critical.
His dad, for some reason, was expecting a definite yes, which shows that Bob has never really had any autonomy in his decisions, and that this is a very unprecedented response for him. Bob expresses that he could never be partners with his dad because he's impossible to work with, and he believes that his dad lacks imagination, creativity, and innovation when it comes to food, which is something that Bob believes that he has in contrast to his dad. And I can say that I agree with that statement. If you look at the customer base of Big Bob's Diner versus Bob's Burgers, you see that Bob has a recurring, diverse set of customers that comes in and out. Outside of Teddy being a regular, even though their restaurant is not doing that well, Bob still puts in the effort to make a new burger of the day and even goes out of his way to shop for unique and unlikely ingredients to try to make new innovative burgers, versus his dad, who has his regular customers that come in and order the same thing every time, not pushing Big Bob to try anything new in his restaurant. And I wouldn't say that it's a bad thing to have regulars in your restaurant, like at all, and it's actually a good thing to have a loyal customer base, but in relation to what Bob is saying about his dad not being innovative, I would have to agree. And at the end of this disagreement that they're having, Big Bob actually kicks Bob out of the diner, calling his burger ideas a joke.
You're gonna do this right now in front of everybody. You know what? Get out! Take your jokey burger specials and go!
Fine!
And that was the last time that they ever had a full conversation. So with all this bad blood in their history, them being stuck in the kitchen together for longer than 15 minutes is bound to explode because they have unresolved issues. And it's at this moment that old conflicts come back to the surface when the now much older regular customer, Henry, decides to order his usual again.
Henry here at the counter says he wants the usual.
The usual.
This causes Bob and Big Bob to fight over who will be in charge of making this order. In the heat of the moment, Bob calls his dad's burgers flavorless and accuses him of being so bland that he probably doesn't even have chives in his kitchen, while Big Bob calls Bob's creations gimmicky. And just like the last time, when Henry is presented with the two options, the tuna melt or the baby can you chive my car burger, Henry chooses Bob's burger and even decides to take a bite, thoroughly enjoying it. And just like last time, Big Bob is not amused by his customer choosing Bob's burger over his in his restaurant and decides to take off his apron and leave Bob to gloat. While Bob is still in celebration mode, Linda decides to bring him back down to earth and tell him that what he did to his dad wasn't very nice. Bob doesn't see this as an issue, you know, finally getting a one-up on his dad, finally getting his childhood lick back. But when the kids bring Bob his very last-minute DIY basement Christmas gift, they notice that the newspaper clipping they used to wrap it is the first review of Bob's Burgers that the kids found in Big Bob's desk.
Wait, where'd you get this?
Europe.
No, the newspaper. Where did you find this?
From Pop-Pop's basement. It was in his desk.
Bobby, what is it?
It's the first review of Bob's Burgers. Unique burgers, good prices, service leaves something to be desired, but worth the trip.
Oh, Bobby, he does love you. You drove him out of his own restaurant on Christmas.
Oh my God, what did I do?
I just told you.
Oh, right.
Drive your father out on Christmas.
Yeah, I heard.
Now, the review is not that good, but Bob realizes that he made a mistake in thinking that his dad didn't care about his accomplishments and decides to go next door to apologize. And like I said in my last discussion of this episode, I do feel like the timing was wrong on Bob's part, but the conversation needed to be had. Like sometimes the conversations that need to be had are never at the right time, but you gotta have them. A lot of times as children, we don't realize until we get older that our parents are not superhumans and can act like babies as well. And it was at this moment that I believe that Big Bob was acting like a baby.
How do you like my joke burgers now, Pop?
Okay, Junior. You win. Thanks for coming to my party.
But then again, there are things that Big Bob himself have probably not dealt with or expressed that would leave Bob confused as to why his dad is feeling hurt about his actions, because he views his dad as a robot who doesn't have emotions or feelings because that's how he was raised to believe that his dad is. In this episode, we also learn that Big Bob is surprisingly good at line dancing, while, as we know, Bob is not that good at dancing. Bob realizes that even though his dad is hard to work with, he has been showing Bob love all along, just in his own detached way. It reminds me of that line in that Frank Ocean song where he says, "I'll do anything for you," in the dark. And it's here that Big Bob finally expresses that it's been hard for him since his mom passed away. He expressed that he just wants what's best for Bob, but he just doesn't have all the tools. I believe that Big Bob assumes that since he did exactly the things that he needed to do to get to the point where he is in his life with no complaints that we know of, he believes that what's best for Bob is to do exactly as he did in his life.
Exactly.
So when Bob decides to go his own way and make his own path, it was hard for him to admit out loud, or at least to Bob, that he's actually done well for himself. This is new territory.
Oh my God, really? This is why I didn't want to work with you. You have to control everything I do. My cooking, my dancing. Not everyone wants to dance exactly the same way. Okay, bad example.
Listen, I know why you had to go. I can be not great to work with. It was tough without your mom around. You did great on your own. You should be very proud.
Bob then apologizes to Big Bob for embarrassing him in front of his customers after they reconcile. And Big Bob says that he's admired how hard Bob's family works and that he has created a beautiful family unit all by himself and gives him props for that. A part of getting older is realizing that you have to relearn your parents all over again. And sometimes with more life experience, your parents' behaviors start to make more sense. In the episode Interview with Bob Belcher, I think that this is one of those moments that Bob has with his father, where you're used to your parents being a certain way, and so you maneuver with them in a way that gives you the best results for interacting with them. The kids are excited to have Pop visit them, which is what the kids call their grandpa, and they all have their own reasons as to why they want his attention in the short time that he's visiting.
I think Pop will be pretty occupied with me because I'll be interviewing him for school, which is the whole reason he's coming over, so...
Why would he want to do boring school stuff when he can hear about the Barobu cards I have?
Sorry, but he'll be too mesmerized by my show. It's called The Genuine Article.
But it's Tina's project that catches Bob's ear the most. Tina has to interview an elder in her family for a school assignment, where one of the questions is to ask the moment that most shaped their lives. And Bob kind of laughs this off and laughs at the idea that Tina is going to interview Big Bob. He says Big Bob is not chitty chatty, so he answers the question for her.
I bet it's the tree thing.
What tree thing?
A tree almost fell on him when he was younger. That's why he doesn't like the woods, I think. Also, I saw him yell at a tree once.
Spoiler, just let him tell it.
And also believes that this is the most information that Tina is going to get out of him. So when Pop arrives with 4 gallons of almost expired milk that Bob definitely told him not to bring, Big Bob does indeed confirm that the tree almost falling on him was the moment that most shaped his life.
I guess that'd be when I went camping and a tree almost fell on me.
Oh, wow, a tree almost fell on you? I had no idea. So tell me about that.
I mean, yeah, that's pretty much it.
There you go. Yep.
What? What's that supposed to mean?
Bob overhears this part of the conversation and scoffs, telling Tina that's exactly how he expected that conversation to go. This obviously offends Big Bob, because you act like you know me more than I know myself, but he just pretty much feels the condescending undertone coming from across the room. They begin to go tit for tat, making all of the kids in the room uncomfortable because there's definitely an argument brewing. And Bob tells his dad that he's not always been communicative, with Big Bob not understanding why that's a big deal in the first place. The conversation gets a bit more heated to the point where Big Bob just decides that he's about to leave.
Maybe I'll just be going then.
Fine, sure.
Okay, the pasta's keeping warm in there, which is kind of the opposite of what's going on in here with the ice cold staring going on, Bob.
But when Tina puts her foot down because she's upset that she didn't get her interview, and she's also upset that her dad came in and ruined the conversation that she was having with Big Bob, Bob and Big Bob apologize to her, and Big Bob actually tells the story in a way that Bob didn't expect. As much as they butt heads, I do believe that they have a mutual love and respect for the children, and decide to put their differences aside at this moment so that Tina can get her project done. The story ends up being that when Big Bob was in his 20s, he went on a camping trip with Bob's mom, Lily. Lily left the tent to go pee, and in her absence, a tree fell on the tent, just missing him, but landing in the exact spot that his then partner was sleeping. So if she had not moved at the time that she did, she would have been crushed. He says that this shaped him because, well, one, he's not dead, and it made him think about how much he wanted to spend the rest of his life with Lily.
I think it was kind of in that moment that I realized I wanted to ask her to marry me. And 6 years later, I popped the question.
And of course, he probably doesn't tell this story because it's a traumatic one. Taking the whole part about Bob's mom almost dying in this incident, his dad almost died too. I wouldn't want to talk about that either. We just gonna keep it short. Yes, it happened. I'm not getting into it. And if there's anything that we know about older people in our family, is that there are a lot of traumatic situations that has happened in their life that they simply just don't talk about.
You're a good interviewer. I feel like a blabbermouth.
And later, in a private moment between Bob and Big Bob, he admits to Bob that he doesn't like to talk about that story much around him because he doesn't want to bring up his mom and make him sad. And I feel like talking about that story also makes Big Bob sad because that's essentially the catalyst of when he realized he had found his life partner.
Maybe I didn't want to bring Mom up and make you think about her and make you sad.
It wouldn't have. I mean, maybe a little, but in a good way, because we'd be talking about her. And I could be a little better at asking you things. Is there anything else I should ask about?
Did I ever tell you about my other family?
What?
Oh, shit.
And we see that this pattern of repressed grief is a huge part of Bob's life that he does not talk about or deal with. In the episode Show Mama from the Grave, when they're going to take the kids snow tubing at a new lodge in Redburn, Bob decides to also have the family stop at his mom's gravesite that's located in the same area. In this episode, we learn that for the duration of Linda and Bob knowing each other, Linda has not known this information.
Wait, you guys are going to Redburn today?
Yeah, why?
My mom's buried in the cemetery in Redburn.
She is? I didn't know that.
Yeah, we didn't live there, but it's a nice cemetery. I remember my dad was sort of proud that he got her a plot there.
Which also lets us know that he has not visited his mother's gravesite in the duration of this time. Even the kids ask him directly, when was the last time that you visited Grandma?
So, Dad, when was the last time you visited your mom's grave?
Oh, I honestly can't remember. It was so many years ago.
Did you have hair?
Yes.
On the part of your head that I can see right now?
Yes.
And of course, we also know that Bob has been balding since he met Linda. He has repressed these memories so much that he can't even pinpoint the exact time that his mom passed away, calculating that it had to be about 32 or 33 years ago, which means that he hasn't visited his mom's gravesite in about 20 years. And in the chaos and confusion of them even trying to find her tombstone, Linda ends up being the one to find it first, even with her fear of cemeteries. When she finally uncovers the tombstone, she has a conversation with Lily, Bob's mom, telling her that she would be proud of who Bob is today and how much he's accomplished in life, and that she made a great guy, and even says that this is the first time that they're meeting. You can tell that Bob has a bit of guilt for not visiting his mom, or is simply not ready to process the passing of his mother, and I mean valid, because he himself has been having a hard time getting close to the gravesite while they're there. And we see that this is not only something that he deals with, but also his father, who doesn't talk about his mom with him because he probably sees how hard Bob has taken this loss, or simply recognizes that Bob hasn't even began to process this grief. But in the end, talking about this loss is probably a great way for him and his dad to not only bond in this new era in their life, but also get through this grieving process together. For me, I was under the impression that Bob and Big Bob have always had this estranged relationship, but in the small moments that we hear Bob talk about his dad, or in flashbacks that we get, we see that there was a time in his life that Big Bob was a little more involved. And after the passing of his mother, that's when he became a little more distant. Like I said, I feel like Big Bob is one of those parents that go to work, come home, make sure everything is taken care of as far as bills, making sure stuff is fixed, but he doesn't actually spend quality time or try to actually connect and bond with his son. And he believes that just making sure everything is taken care of is enough. But Bob, as a child who then later doesn't have the parent that he was closer to, has a void that needs to be filled that Big Bob simply can't. In the episode Tinasaurus Rex, Bob reveals that his dad actually let him drive when he was around Tina's age. And of course, if you've seen this episode, you know why that's a bad idea, because Tina does end up crashing the car in what's one of the funniest moments in the entire show. But this just shows that those moments behind the wheel with his dad stuck with Bob. And it shows that Big Bob doesn't always stick to the status quo and has a bit more of a fun, adventurous side to him.
Pop, question. How much cotton candy is too much cotton candy?
I don't know, 3.
Perfect answer.
And if we vomit on a ride, can we buy more of the food that we vomited?
Of course.
In the episode Wharf Me Worry, he also sent the kids off with $5 and suggested that they get a tattoo in a place that their parents won't see.
Meet me back here in a half hour or so, and don't get any tattoos that your parents can see.
Mind you, these kids are in no more than elementary or middle school, so while yes, that is crazy to suggest them to do, it just shows that Big Bob is not always a stick in the mud as he can sometimes seem to be. In the episode Saving Favorite Drive-In, Bob was sad that his childhood drive-in movie theater was closing down, and we see that Bob and Big Bob would spend time together in this drive-in. Granted, Big Bob was probably just the ride because, as we see in the flashback, Big Bob spent most of that time sleeping in the driver's seat. But I do feel like that shows that Big Bob put in effort to allow Bob to do things that he liked to do, that Big Bob was comfortable with, of course, like go to the drive-in movies. Again, I wouldn't say that this is necessarily quality time because, of course, Big Bob was asleep for most of it and also didn't realize that Bob would be gone for long periods of time, tying into something that I'm gonna get into later. But I did realize in this moment that it showed a bit of attentiveness because Big Bob reassures Bob that he could have invited a friend. And when Bob says that they were all busy and couldn't make it, Big Bob calls out that he just doesn't have any friends.
You know, you could have brought a friend.
Well, they were busy.
And you don't really have that many.
Thanks. I'm gonna go get snacks now.
And although the delivery was harsh, it shows that he knows that his son doesn't really have a social network and is usually spending his time alone. And we also know that Big Bob is the one that introduced Bob to making burgers in the first place, which shows that there was a time where making burgers together was a bonding moment, but became soured when Bob had bigger dreams for his burger making aspirations. However, even in the current rift, Bob made it a point to squeeze in the kids making a gift for their Pop-Pop's birthday coming up in the episode The Secret Ceramics Room of Secrets, when Linda told the kids to actually put in some effort to make a birthday gift for her mom.
But you know those handmade gifts you make for your grandma every year?
Know 'em. I half-ass 'em.
Yes, and she notices.
You kids wouldn't want the last thing she saw to be your crappy gifts. And my dad's birthday is coming up too, you know.
Handmade gifts for multiple grandparents. Wow. I guess we'll just take a sabbatical from the slop shop to get all that done.
Showing that even with the differences, Bob still values the relationship that the kids have with Big Bob and would like to keep that love consistent. I would say that the kids are where Big Bob and Bob come to a common ground. They value having a great relationship with Tina, Jean, and Louise. And again, I feel like when you get older, sometimes it's jarring to see your parents behave completely different as they did with you, with children in later generations, or in this case with the grandkids, because that is not the version of your parents that you got. And Bob often projects how he believes Big Bob will act with the kids because that's his experience with his dad. In the episode Wharf Me Worry, the kids are excited to spend a rainy day with their Pop-Pop at the wharf.
Rainy day romp at Wonder Wharf with Pop-Pop.
Well, I'm looking forward to some quality time with Grandpa. I like how we enjoy the same ride intensity. Less thrill, more chill.
Yup, you have the same taste in fun as a 75-year-old man.
However, Bob is worried about the kids spending so much time with their Pop-Pop alone, which I'm assuming is the only time that they have done something like this, so it's also just a new experience. He's worried that Pop-Pop will be a downer to them because he often talks about how terrible the world is and the end of the world.
Buy water and rain barrels and write not water on it so your neighbors don't steal it.
Gotta go.
Big Bob doesn't see this as pessimism though. He sees it as more of helpful tips to prepare for the doomed future. Fast forward, we get to the wharf and the kids are stopped by a new clam attraction that they find extremely funny and amusing. But Big Bob doesn't like how oddly specific the clam is because he doesn't fully understand how it works. Because he's old. They continue to explore the wharf, and when Big Bob sends the kids off with $5, he tells them not to come back with that money or they're spending it wrong. Period.
This is in no way related, but Grandpa, did I mention how much I like your style?
And it's during this time that the kids get locked in a room with a microphone controlling the clam because an employee decided to leave it unattended and the kids snuck in.
Okay, guys, for real, we should leave now. Hello. Fellas, what's the rush? Hey, how's it going? Pretty crazy weather we're having. What's your name, Muscles? What are you, on the swim team or something?
Time has now passed, with Big Bob falling asleep on the bench, losing track of time, and not realizing that the kids are missing. Again, my point that I made about the drive-in movie incident. I guess time has passed so much that Bob begins to worry that something is going on and decides to go down there and check on them. Linda doesn't think that this is a good idea though, because it just makes it seem as though Bob doesn't trust his dad with the kids, which Linda ends up being right about that fact because Bob calls Big Bob to ask, how's everything going? And Big Bob lies.
I was just thinking how much more fun it would be if I came down there and we all hung out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I just thought it'd be nice to all be at the wharf together. Also, I'm here, so I'll hang up now.
Bob immediately jumps to conclusions, assuming that Big Bob might have said something to the kids that rubbed them the wrong way, making them not want to be around him. And of course, this offends Big Bob because he doesn't see his pessimism as that. And also in this moment, we kind of see how Bob and Big Bob differ in ways that they handle or react to certain situations. Because as much as Bob was worried that his kids were nowhere to be found, he decides to sit and wait for them to arrive, while Big Bob decides to get up and go look.
So I guess we should just wait for them
look
here?
for them?
Oh,
Okay.
All right. Hey, let's go look for the kids.
Yeah, I'm up, so I might as well stay up.
Great. Oh, yep.
In their search, Big Bob expresses that he feels like Bob doesn't trust him with the kids, but Bob really did just show up out of concern and then started jumping to conclusions. Also in their search, Big Bob sees a big gorilla stuffed animal and immediately decides he wants to win that toy for the kids.
All this stuff's gonna end up there. Just a giant island of stuffed animals and plastic. Oh, we should win that gorilla for the kids.
Wait, what?
I don't know if this is something that Big Bob would have done for Bob when he was a kid, but it does take Bob by surprise. Not only the fact that it was a thoughtful gesture, but because Big Bob actually has good aim.
I can't believe you won that.
I guess I'm good at aiming water at stuff. Except in the bathroom. Sometimes. I'm working on it.
We all are.
And in many ways, they don't realize how similar they are to each other. Like in the episode Father of the Bob, Bob complains that his dad makes this groaning noise whenever he's in a moment of discomfort or discontent, but Bob does the exact same thing.
I want to express myself in the kitchen, and when I say that, he makes this weird sound. That sound! What is that?
Your father's had eczema his entire life. When he was growing up, everyone called him cornflakes.
Maybe it's genetic. And like, yeah, of course it's genetic, but Bob doesn't see the similarities in his own criticisms of his father.
What if a shark jumped out of the ocean and grabbed all three of them? There's more sharks in these waters every year, you know. Sharks are having a heyday, and they're coming for us.
And this is such an older person thing to do. It's like when you tell your parents you're going on some vacation and they start telling you the most insane scenarios of what could possibly happen when you're out there. Just dramatic and ridiculous. But anyway, this drama was the semi-final straw for Bob, and he decides to talk to his dad about these exaggerated scenarios, but stops himself when Big Bob says that he hates where this conversation is going already before it even starts. So Bob comes up with the bright idea to split up. And in their separation, Bob ends up finding the kids screaming for help inside the clam.
Wait, kids? Are you in there?
Dad, yes, we're in here.
We're talking through a microphone in a little booth. We're locked in. Hurry, hurry, it's filling up with Tina, breath, and Gene farts.
Louise questions if he was worried that they took Pop Pop's pills and that they threw him away in the ocean, fearing that they were gonna run Pop Pop away. But Bob admits that it's the opposite.
It's just sometimes Pop Pop can be a little dark about life and kind of negative.
And y'all, I swear, when I was watching this part, I thought that Big Bob was gonna overhear this conversation, so I was a little scared for him, but he didn't. And Tina sticks up for him, saying that he's actually a good grandpa and that it's their fault for getting stuck in that room in the first place because Tina has been feeling guilty about their mischievous endeavors. When that's not exactly the issue that anybody is having at the moment. Bob again says that he thought that the kids were gonna be thrown off by Big Bob being dark and negative all the time, and Louise clocks that tea, saying that Bob has actually been the one being weird all day, and that, hello, you're the exact same way.
You mean like you?
What?
Yeah, Mr. Everything's bad all the time.
I'm tired. I'm worried. My back hurts. I'm Bob.
Whoa, that's pretty good.
Thank you.
What? No, that doesn't sound like me that much.
It may not be the world-ending ways that Big Bob is, but Bob is definitely a pessimistic guy who doesn't really get excitement out of what everybody else is doing and doesn't see the point in a lot of fun things, but also sometimes agrees to it because, like, why not? Just like in this moment, when they decide to prank Big Bob with the clam, telling him that he's gonna live for 1,000 more years.
Wait, let us tell you your future. You're gonna live for 1,000 years.
The world won't even be around in 1,000 years.
Because it will have moved to a funner location, or?
No, because it's all going to happen.
And in this moment of being anonymous, Bob is feeling a little more empowered to say what he's been feeling about his dad, telling him that the grim things that he tells his grandkids may make the kids not want to be around him because they have to live in the future with all these bleak things that he's saying is going to happen in. But Big Bob surprises us all.
I'm not always worried about the future.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and that's because of my grandkids. They might actually figure stuff out and, you know, fix stuff.
Oh.
Yeah, Mr. Deep Thoughts on a rainy day.
I didn't know you felt like that. Well, I'm glad we talked.
Do you mind if I go?
Oh, sure.
This completely changes Bob's outlook on his dad, and he even admits that that's one of the best conversations that he had with his dad in a long time. He has a complete change of tune and decides to actually leave the kids with Pop Pop and go back home instead of trying to mediate their dynamic. Bob got in his own head about how he believed the dynamic between Bob and the kids were going to be because that's his own experience with his dad. When in reality, the kids express often how much they love spending time with their Pop Pop, not only because he gives them money and they enjoy hearing his opinions, with Tina specifically enjoying his opinions on what's ruining America, but because the relationship that they built with him is actually a good one. It's thoughtful and a more outwardly expressive form of love, which is contrary to Bob and his relationship, which is why he couldn't wrap his head around the concept, because that's not his experience. Big Bob may be emotionally distant, controlling, and even cold sometimes, but he's not unloving. His own grief and old school values and the personal traumas that he's been through in life have shaped how he shows affection, or in this case, how he doesn't with Bob. And due to that, Bob has struggled with his own legacy, wanting his father's approval, yet needing space from him to be the best version of himself. But even in all the things that he lacks that were needed to grow and be a well-rounded adult, he was able to create a beautiful, loving family with a wife who understands his shortcomings and is able to make up those things that he lacks, creating the perfect team and cultivating a great family dynamic that is the Belchers. And I know that Gene has had to come to grips with the fact that he might end up being like his dad as well when he gets older and realizes that his face is actually a generational one, with him looking like his dad and Bob looking like his.
I took my clothes off!
Go, Dad!
Shake what Grandpa gave you!
But Gene couldn't be more different than Bob, in my opinion. I feel like Gene is a lot like Linda, with Tina actually being the one that's more similar to Bob than the other kids. And I get that. I am my father's daughter as well. There are new episodes coming out at the time that I'm making this video, but I do love seeing that throughout the show, we're seeing signs of healing and a possible shift in Bob and Big Bob's relationship as the show progresses. And one thing I believe Bob has learned is that in order to see your healing progress, you have to step back into the turmoil. You can't just avoid your dad and think that everything is okay. You may regress in old behaviors, but it's the moments that you make intentional change in the chaos that makes the difference. And I have no doubt that Bob and Big Bob will have their moment of healing and communication when the time comes and become the father and son duo that Lily would want them to be. And of course, y'all know I always leave y'all with some closing questions. What would you like to see more of from Big Bob as the show progresses? And do you relate more to Bob trying to break the cycle, or Big Bob doing the best that he can with what he knows? Let me know in the comments down below. But of course, I hope you all enjoyed this video. You can keep up with me outside of YouTube, again on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Blue Sky. All that information is in the description box down below. And if you made it to the end of this video, please be sure to give this video a big thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and make sure you hit the notification bell to stay up to date with posts and uploads from me. But for now, I hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.